Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education's Winemaking Information Session. My name is Pradeep Kandola. I'm also known as Katie Kandola, and I'll be your host today. I manage the online Winemaking Certificate Program and the annual one-week OIV Wine Marketing Program. We are so glad that you have joined us today. Our goal is to provide you with some information about the UC Davis CPE winemaking courses that are coming up and give you an opportunity to have any questions that you might have answered by those running the programs. We have a packed schedule today, and we are joined by 5 panelists. First one is Grady Wan, Director of Winemaking Certificate Program, who will talk about the online winemaking certificate program and the prereq course, Basic Chemistry for Winemakers. Second panelist is Christian Miller, who will be joining us momentarily. He is the proprietor of Full Glass Research, and he will talk about the summer one-week OIV Wine Marketing Program. We have Julie Brinley, my colleague, Program Education Specialist, who will talk about the upcoming short courses. And we have Enrico D. El Sandrini, a recent graduate of Online Winemaking Certificate Program, who will share his experience and students' perspective with the wine program. We have Christy Craig, enrollment coach, and you can make an appointment with her and have any questions answered about the program and see if this is the right program fit for your career goals. We will also have a Q&A at the end of the session, so feel free to open the Q&A box during the presentations and type in your questions, and I will address them at the conclusion of the session. If we run out of time and we do not address any asked questions, we apologize, but I will address them individually via email. And the next slide, as a matter of fact, Grady, the winemaking around the world is very prevalent. There are 11,000 US wineries and several in every state. And as a matter of fact, we have a poll question here. If you can participate in that, we'll tabulate it and publish the results momentarily. And now I will introduce the first panelist, Grady Wan, who will talk about the industry overview of wine.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this information session for the CPE winemaking courses. As Katie mentioned, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but basically all 50 states in the United States have wineries. We now have over 11,000 wineries in the US. And there's a lot of growth in the wine industry, even after the pandemic issues of the last couple of years. As you probably know, most of the wineries are in California. California makes up about 40% of the total US wineries. One of the interesting trends these days is the movement toward virtual wineries, where wineries have a bonded presence, but not a brick and mortar building. They basically share facilities with another winery, and but have wines that they make and produce and market under their own brand. Now, virtual wineries make up over 20% of the total in California, and about 15% overall in the US. We are seeing a continued growth in a lot of states outside of California, especially Washington, Texas, Virginia, Ohio, Colorado, and even Idaho showing growth over the last couple of years. So as Katie mentioned, we're going to do a quick poll just to kind of see where you all are tuning in from. So if you could take a moment to click on one of the radio buttons that most closely matches your position, that'd be great. Most of our students do come from California and the West Coast of the United States, but we do have people from the rest of the country and, in fact, all around the world. So we're always interested in seeing where our audience is coming from. So I'll give another couple of seconds for people to chime in. And as I'm looking at the results, it looks as if California is making up the bulk of our audience today. But as you can see, we're also spread out around the rest of the world. We do have some international visitors, and we'd like to certainly welcome you. So I also have some statistics here about the US wine industry. First off, on the left-hand side, by size, and you can see from the numbers that 97% or so of the wineries in the US are categorized as medium to small. So that's 50,000 cases annually or less. And over 80% are in the very small category as less than 5,000 cases. Not surprisingly, the price range on the right-hand side, you'll see only a small percent operate in the under $11 range, mostly larger wineries that have the ability and can be able to do these things at scale. One of the things that surprised me when I looked at the statistics is how many wineries average price are $100 and over these days. So 2% of the wineries in the high range, but as you might expect, most wineries operate in that mid-range between $11 and $60. I put a couple slides in because almost everybody who is interested in the program wants to know how much people in the wine industry make. The bad news or the cautionary news is that we're not in it for the money. Let's put it that way. This is small winery salary scales for the past year, under 50,000 cases. And you can see it broken down by winery size in the major employment roles: winemaker, top sales, office manager, tasting room, and wine club managers. Also put a comment down at the bottom. The average cellar worker or lab technician, which are pretty much the entry-level positions into wine production, are usually in about the $45,000 to $50,000 range. It also varies across the country, as you might expect. Highest wages tend to be in the Western states, but you can see that it does vary across the US, with the Midwest and the Northeast being sort of at the lower end of the scale.
Grady, if you don't mind me popping in here for just a second, I would like to say that when you get to the medium to large wineries, the management salaries do jump quite a bit.
Absolutely true.
And that includes also to keep an eye on is sort of the wine club direct marketing tasting manager role, because that, especially in the medium, sort of larger, small, medium wineries, is a crucial role. And I think the compensation is probably a bit higher there, and it's going to be most people in the industry believe that's going to be rising quite a bit in the next few years.
Thank you, Christian. I agree wholeheartedly. The small wineries rely on that direct-to-consumer avenue, and so that definitely is going to be valued. These are the averages from last year according to the Wine Business Monthly Salary Survey. So even though we're not in it for the money, there's a lot of benefits to being in the wine industry. And I thought I'd just have another quick poll about your connection to the wine industry currently. So again, if you could click on the avenue that most fits you at the moment. So whether or not you're currently employed in wine production, whether you're interested in starting a vineyard, whether you're currently own a vineyard, just some idea of where you stand at the moment. We usually get a good mix of people that are both in the wine business and looking to increase their technical knowledge, as well as people looking either for a second career or a career change. And they've been avid wine consumers and thinking about making a change. So as I'm looking at the results coming in, I see we're kind of across the board, which is basically what we would expect. And so I think I will end the poll, share the results here. And you can see that the largest percentage of our folks today are interested wine consumers thinking about a future wine industry career. So looking either as a second career or perhaps just looking for a change. So as I mentioned, the wine industry, while it may not be the highest paying, especially here in the Bay Area where we have Silicon Valley salary scales, winemaking, however, is a fantastic industry. I can speak from experience. I was a commercial winemaker for 25 years. And it's a great combination of being able to produce a great product. Oftentimes you get to live and work in a beautiful area of the country, and wonderful people as far as the wine industry is concerned. And one of the things that I liked most about the wine industry was especially the small winery winemaker or general manager role, which is the role that I played, is it's just a fabulous combination of agriculture and production, science and creativity or art, logistics. It has a wonderful seasonality. You never do the same thing, seems like, twice. There's also the marketing and promotion end of things, because making wine's great, but doesn't do anybody any good until somebody actually buys it. And as running a small winery, you often get involved in finance and employee relations as well. So it's just a wonderful, varied field, and has been a great career, at least from my perspective. So we'll hear from a couple of other people as well. You heard Christian's voice come in to comment on the earlier slide. But what we're going to do right now is give you sort of a preview of the upcoming winemaking courses that are offered from CPE. And the first one is the OIV Wine Marketing Program that is headed up by Christian Miller. So Christian, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this. Really is a terrific program, and it's always developing and innovating and adding, updating. I mean, one of the great advantages of being nestled in the University of California system is that they've got the resources and the ongoing research to update many of these courses as we go along. The OIV Wine Marketing Program is a little bit different from some of the other courses. It was started we're up on 30 years now, started by Jim Lapsley, who has been a professor at UC Davis as well as a winery owner and winemaker, and Michel Bourqui, who is head of education at the Organisation Internationale de la Vigne et du Vin, which is an international organization that has member countries and affiliate countries from all over the world. And it does a lot of research. It does a lot of coordination between countries on kind of standardizing everything from, container descriptions or specifications to what can go on labels internationally and things like that. And it also has a master's degree program in the business of wine, and that they partnered with UC Davis Extension Service to create what's essentially a crash course in marketing wine in the U.S. Market, which is by value the largest market in the world, and by volume, if not the top one, very close to the top one. So it's a crucial market for many people, and that's why we have often, we always have a number of international students in addition to the actual OIV master's students who participate in this program. We've condensed it down to 1 week every summer. We'll be running it online again this year. And the emphasis is on practical knowledge more than academic or theoretical. So for instance, you figure out, how does that wine end up at that price on the shelf? Because we go over prices and margins and how they're set by wholesalers or retailers, rather than sort of an economic description of pricing theory and supply and demand and so on. We cover from soup to nuts, as they say, the entire marketing process. So that is, we start actually with a general description of the U.S. market and its history, and also with things like, Grady mentioned how many thousands of wineries there are currently, and how many of them are in the virtual winery business. Well, we cover that in the course, for instance, by discussing, what different kind of licenses are to produce, including the licenses that allow you to produce virtually, and what their limitations and advantages are. Students come from all kinds of geographies and backgrounds, very similar to what you saw in the quick poll there. We've got people in the wine industry who, for instance, you're managing a tasting room and you want to become, sort of a marketing director type. Or we've got people who are in the industry who own a vineyard and are expanding vertically, adding a winery, and smartly, I think, decide they better find out about managing a winery's marketing and selling before they actually have the winery sitting on their hands. And then you have a lot of people outside the winery. Typically, they're people who want to find a job in the industry or are investing in the industry. So with that, we can move to the next slide. And this is just a lot of typical speakers. I'm not going to go all through this. You can all look this up if you want to, but it gives you an idea of the breadth and depth of the speakers, because our program is not just me talking for 1 week, thank God. It's I will be speaking on the areas of my expertise, but we bring in some of the top executives and creative people and pioneers in many cases in their field. So Paul Wagner was the founder of Balzac Communications, one of the leading PR agencies specializing in wine. He's one of our regular speakers. Ed Rice, who has been the director of strategy at Affinity Creative, he's been in package design and marketing for many, many years. Lisa Ehrlich at Lisa Ehrlich Consulting has launched managed multiple brands over the years, including multi-million-dollar brand and multi-million cases brands that you've heard of, and very tiny specialist artisanal brands. Wilfred Wong is, well known in the industry as the founder of Ashbury Market. He was one of the chief marketing executives for Bevmo, and now he's got the interesting title of chief storyteller at wine.com, and on and on. So you get a good idea. We cover a wide range of people, all from the industry, all who can bring you up to date on what exactly they're doing now. And I'm not going to go through a description of all the pieces of the agenda, but this will sort of give you a rough idea of what it's like. The first day is sort of the background and foundation. So we go a bit over the history and geography of wine in the US. We drill you in basic definitions and concepts. And this is very, very important because in any business, people are going to judge you to some extent, fairly or unfairly, on your mastery of kind of the business lingo. So if you walk into a wholesaler trying to get distribution for your new wine, they're going to judge you to some extent on how you understand pricing and how you talk about it, whether you understand what they're talking about when they talk about depletions or depletion allowances and so on. We go over all that as the vocabulary. Like I mentioned, we talk about regulation licensing, who can sell wine and how. We have John Maramarco, who, in my opinion, as a longtime market researcher, is one of the best people on markets, on the industry statistics in the entire country. Then on day 2, we talk about the US wine market. And here's where we talk about what the trends are and what's selling and so on. We talk about the organic and sustainable and green market, so to speak, as a particular segment of growing importance. We talk about PR and how PR really, once you get down to the smaller, higher level, higher end wineries, PR and marketing really are kind of inseparable. So we have a speaker who's been in the industry for a long time talking about that. We talk about how importation works. And then we talk about, what's happening, how people have some ideas that are actually wrong about marketing wine in America and how to correct that. On day 3, we're now into actually getting things done. How do you launch a brand? And we start with a discussion of sensory science and flavor and how consumers and producers, for that matter, can understand it better. We talk about custom crushing and private labels, again, some of those virtual options for getting started in the industry. We talk about trends and traits in the American wine consumer. We talk about package design, and both from a legal point of view, what you need to make a label legal and get it registered and out in the market, and why you might want to make it a package or label look like you do, and the nuts and bolts of launching a new brand. And we also have online socials after a couple of the days, so people can get to know each other better and then sort of fling out random questions that we'll try to field. Day 4 is all about getting into distribution and through the distribution system down to retail. So we talk about how wine is priced. We talk about what you can and can't do when you distribute and sell and market wine. We have a person who represents small distributors in the distribution of fine wines, which tend to be concentrated in distribution among smaller distributors and wholesalers. We talk about someone will explain how to work with the larger distributors. We have someone talk about fact-based sales and management and marketing and the software options that are available for doing that. And then we usually have an alumni case study, which illustrates some of these principles. And last, but definitely not least, on day 4, it's all about where wine meets the consumer. So we have people talking about the fine wine shop. We have people talking about tasting room management, design, strategy, and how to interface with the consumer there. We have some people talking about digital marketing that ranges all the way from, designing your website to reaching out through email, social media, etc., to consumers. We have someone talk about off-premise sales and the retail sector. We'll have a couple of people talking about on-premise sales to restaurants, both from the distribution point of view and the wine buyer's point of view. And then lastly, we like to feature a marketing sales presentation workshop for, if any of our students want to have sort of a what we call the elevator pitch, a 5-minute description of either their current business proposition or a brand they think would be interesting to discuss or present, or a sales idea they have, they can do that and we'll give feedback on them. And that pretty much wraps up the course. So you can see we start with, the big picture, the macro picture, then go on to how you can get your label or wine produced and off the ground, and then all the way through the distribution system to the consumer. Now, these individual topics may move slightly within a day. Often they move up or down depending on when the speakers are available, because these are very successful, busy people who we can't just dial in whenever we want. Occasionally a talk will jump to another day if someone we think is really critical. It is only available on that day. That's less frequent, but the basic structure remains the same. This is just, I'm going to race through these. This is just a few sample slides from some presentations. What we talked about, Grady mentioned virtual wineries. We talk about that. What is a winery? What is a virtual custom crush? What kind of licenses you can have? The next slide is an example of this from John Maramarco's presentation on the macro trend of wine, the different types entering distribution. He'll talk about what those mean. The next slide, this is from my presentation on the American wine consumer. This is just the basic breakdown by frequency of wine consumption. We'll talk about how those trends are going. Then we talk about flavor, and this is kind of a Chardonnay style map distilled based on actual consumer feedback in blind tastings and combined with sensory panel data. This is probably, if there's one slide to take away from the entire course, this is probably it. It's the structure of distribution in the US. And we go through all these various paths are described during the course, what the advantages are, what the pitfalls are, how to make them work for you. And then let's see, do we have any more sample slides, or is that, oh yeah, pricing. This is just a really brief example, but we'll explain what the heck's going on with all this. And how prices are reached at the retail level and what you can do to modify those prices rather than just having them bounce around randomly. And again, this is just an example of, what the heck is a depletion allowance, something you have to know if you're in distribution. And this is, you can click through the slide, Katie, but basically we go through it. We explain the structure of how depletion allowances work with fairly simple, straightforward examples. And then, so this is talking about, this explains different levels of distribution. You saw 2 slides ago. These are different types of retail outlets, and you can see that the proportion of wine sold through each outlet changes quite a lot as you move up through the price spectrum. And here's an example from of a slide from Brian Craig's explanation of how to manage and design your website, which I found very interesting because it's not an area of my expertise. And that brings us to the actual, that wraps up the wine marketing. So if I was going to say there's one thing that distinguishes this course from others, is that it really has presentations by people currently engaged in the business who really are experts. And we really take a practical approach. We try to imagine, what would you like to know if you are about to launch a brand or about to enter the industry or want to understand marketing of wine? And frankly, I wish I had had a course like this when I got into the industry back when mammoths roamed the earth, and it would have saved me a lot of time and trouble. So with that, turning it back to you, Grady.
Thanks, Christian, and appreciated that. So that's our OIV summer marketing course, and you can see more details. And Christian is going to hang around, I think, and he'll be available for some questions at the end. But right now we're going to turn to Julie Brinley, who handles the winemaking short courses, and talk about the offerings that are upcoming this late spring and summer.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. I'm Julie Brinley. I am the program education specialist for the winemaking short courses. We are offering a variety of courses in person, yay, both this spring and summer in viticulture and enology. Our instructor for the viticulture courses is Con Cutral, the UC Davis viticulture specialist. And the instructor for our enology courses is Leticia Chacon Rodriguez, who is the UC Davis researcher winemaker. Our first class that we are offering starts on May 13th. It's a one-day class. It's the Vineyard Irrigation Principle and Practices class taught by Con. It's held down at the Oakville Field Station in Oakville, which is in the Napa Valley. Students will learn grapevine, water relations, methods of plant water status measurements, micro irrigation system design, and irrigation scheduling for both red and white wine grape cultivars. They also will learn how plant water status is assessed, micro irrigation system design, irrigation scheduling. Students will have hands-on experience in measurements and investigating data streams to schedule irrigation. The next class we will be offering is our very popular Small Vineyard Management 2 class. We have a couple seats left in this class. It will be held May 19th and 20th, again, instructed by Con. Students will learn the botany and physiology of grapevines. They will examine the grapevine, how grapevines grow, including the use of mineral nutrients, irrigation and preparation for next season's production, cultivar and rootstock selection, trellis types, pest and disease protection, calibration of vineyard sprayers. Students will also have a hands-on demonstration of pruning different types of grapevine trellises. Again, this class is also held down in Oakville at the Oakville Field Station. The next class we will be offering is Tools to Adjust Wine Chemistry and Stability, offered on May 23rd and 24th. Leticia will be teaching this class. Again, it will be in person at the UC Davis Winery. Students will examine optimal use of fining agents, learn about specific enzymes utilized for winemaking, discover techniques that adjust wine chemistry, and apply learning to real case examples. Students must be 21 to attend this class. The next class we will be offering is the first part of the step-by-step winemaking class. It will be held June 6th, and Letitia will be teaching this class as well. It's the first of a two-part course for small-scale winemakers. In this class, students learn juice and yeast preparation, fermentation, and filtration and aging. Students will have a hands-on demonstration that involve working with incoming fruit, crushing both red and white grapes, as well as pressing juice using traditional and non-traditional methods. Following that will be the step-by-step winemaking part 2 on June 8th and 9th. Again, for small-scale winemakers, students will dive deeper into the topics covered in step-by-step part 1. They'll learn yeast selection, enzymes, color and phenolics, extraction, tannins and oak barrels, microoxidation, filtration, and closure and bottling. We will then be offering, we're bringing back, yay, finally, our wine microbiology workshop. It will be held on June 13th and 14th, taught by Letitia. In this class, students will receive microscope training and practical exercises for identifying wine microorganisms. They will also yeast and malolactic bacteria strains, inoculation practices, fermentations, winery sanitation. This lab workshop includes sterile techniques, plating of cultures, isolation of microbes, analytical methods used for identifying micro and counting chambers, and viability assays. Our last class, Successful Home Winemaking, will be held July 21st, again taught by Letitia. This class is for both those with experience and those that are new to wine production. Students will learn how different wines are made and properly stored. By the end of the class, students will be well versed in all phases of home wine production, fermentation theory, sanitation procedures, and equipment for small scale wine production. Thank you for everything, and back to you, Grady.
So those are our short courses that will be offered this summer. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Winemaking Certificate Program, which is a longer program that is geared around learning the science behind the art of winemaking. And its focus is on commercial production winemaking. So it's not a how-to course. It's more of a learning the science and the things that go into the decisions that are made in the winemaking process as a commercial winemaker. We think it's designed for those people that are actually working in the wine industry or want to be, but also can be useful for those that are just intrigued by the science of the winemaking process. So one of the things that sets this program apart from many others across the country is that it's based on the UC Davis Viticulture and Enology science-based curriculum that's taught on campus and has been for a number of years. That department's been a world-renowned in the science for grape growing and winemaking for many, many years. And so basically we try to take that academic information, set it in a practical context, I guess, using quality instructors that have extensive commercial winemaking experience. So these courses aren't taught by academics, they're taught by people who have had 20 years plus making wine commercially. It's an interesting format in that it's 100% online, so it can be done from anywhere in the world as long as you've got a good internet connection. Provides Not only interesting instruction from those that have worked in the industry for a long time, but also there's tremendous peer-to-peer learning. There's people attending these classes from literally all over the world, having experiences that are much, much different from those that you might have. And we learn a lot from the students that take these classes. As I mentioned, it's online, available from anywhere. It's a 5-course program, and the course path is flexible. And one of the additional benefits is that you can get extensive networking opportunities through meeting like-minded people in the program. So as I mentioned, it's a systematic and scientific approach to winemaking, and focuses really on wine stylistic decisions and the science behind making those decisions. It does look at the principles of wine analytical chemistry as well as microbiology. We do have a course on viticulture science, at least as it applies to growing quality wine grapes. And there's also a sensory component looking at potential flaws and wine stability to make sure that your wines are survive being on the shelf. So our hope is that it prepares you for advancement in your wine career or entry into the wine industry, if that's your desire. As I mentioned, it's a 5-course program, has an introduction to wine and winemaking, just kind of a wine appreciation course, looks at the basic grape growing and winemaking process, as well as sort of tours the major wine producing regions of the world and the wines that are made there. The wine production course is kind of at the heart of the program, looks at producing wine from the grapes through fermentation primarily and into malolactic. There's a quality control and analysis class that also has microbiology as a component. As I mentioned, the viticulture for winemakers class, and then a wine stability and sensory analysis class. All of these are based on courses that have been taught at the Viticulture and Enology Department on campus for many years, and takes advantage of the extensive expertise that's present in the V&E department here on campus. Just something about the program logistics. As I mentioned, 5 quarter-long courses, usually run 11 weeks. Usually takes about 2 years to complete once you're into the wine production course. The costs are listed here. And I didn't mention the prerequisite that is required for the program. You need to apply for the to get into the Winemaking Certificate Program. It does take a 1-semester college chemistry prerequisite. We also have a chemistry course that I've been teaching that gives that introduction in a 13-week course entitled Basic Chemistry for Winemakers. So with that, I thought I'd turn it over to my good friend and former student, Enrico D'Alessandrini, who has been through the program and is a graduate of the Winemaking Certificate Program. And he's also very accomplished in the wine world. And I thought it would be great if you would hear a little bit about his story, how he came to apply to the Winemaking Certificate Program, and how he feels like it has helped him in his career path. So Enrico, take it from here.
Thank you, Grady. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for having me as a guest today. There's not enough that I can say about what the Wine Certificate Program has done for me. I entered this business as a career change. I had a background in commodities, but it was in the investment world. I started to vinify in 2017. I had a very good fortune of having an outstanding mentor from France, Gervais Chambertin, 5th generation winemaker. But as I followed him around, I realized that although I got a good sense of the mechanics, I didn't really understand the science and the background in winemaking. And as I started to invest more in the wine industry, we now have a winery in Piedmont, Italy, 15 hectares, growing to about 18 hectares, where we grow indigenous varietals as well as some international varietals. And speaking with Pierre Nagin, my mentor, he encouraged me to get some deeper insight. And we discussed the program and the material that would be covered in the wine certification program. And so I dove into it. And I came out of it really with three primary benefits or insights. One is further understanding of the process, even from a mechanical perspective, and really enhanced that with a better understanding of the chemistry behind winemaking, to understand how and when things could potentially go wrong. And thirdly, the great benefit was that going the way that the program is structured, where you have a wealth of materials that are very well written and videos that accompany those. Each week, you have the luxury of having a 1 to 2 hour session with a industry veteran, one of the professor that's teaching the course that has had 15 to 20 vintages under their belt to cover the material. And then at the end, really have a Q&A or a discussion where there's a contribution from a lot of students also asking questions that have winemaking experience. So I found the three to be quite the three parts, both process, chemistry, and the material, to be very enriching. And in closing, I would say that really one of the beauties and luxuries is being a UC Davis alum now is that it does provide you with a great network. I have met some great winemakers through the program. And the other great part is that with the ongoing classes that were covered and are about to be offered, it's always an opportunity, even for those that have gone through the certificate program, to come back and dig in and spend time with the local professors at UC Davis, and have even more opportunity to ask questions and learn with hands-on experience with them. So it's been an absolute wonderful experience, and I'd recommend it and have to many of my colleagues in the wine industry.
Thanks, Enrico. I had the pleasure actually of visiting Enrico's winery in Italy this past fall. The picture on this slide is one that I took when I was visiting, and it works not only as a network for the students, but also a networking vehicle for the instructors. And I really appreciated your gracious hospitality, Enrico, when my wife and I were in Italy. So I'm sure there's going to be some questions for you as we wrap this up, Enrico. So hopefully you can hang around, because that is one of the, getting a real world testimony, if you will, as to how the program has helped somebody make a career change into the wine industry, and one that has been quite successful. Enrico's wines are extremely well received, and as I mentioned, his winery was a pleasure to visit. So I think we're going to wrap up this session by bringing on Christy Craig, who's our enrollment coach, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does and the benefits to students that want to be a part of the program. So Christy, you're on.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that this team went over a lot of information, and if you have additional questions after the info session wraps up, I'm here to help. I'm happy to work with you individually to schedule and lay out your enrollment path, so that way we can find the best courses at the best times to fit you. So please reach out to me. I will go ahead and put my Calendly link into the chat. That way you can schedule an appointment that's going to work for your work schedule, your time zone. And that way I'm here to help facilitate any additional process that you need. So I'll go ahead and put that into the chat. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can schedule by phone or Zoom meeting, and I look forward to speaking with you more. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. I've also put the contact information for Katie, who handles the OIV summer program, as well as the winemaking certificate program. And then Julie Brinley's contact information as well for if you'd like further information about the short courses. So along with Christy's information as well. So Katie, do you have any questions that have come in while we've been presenting some of this material that we might be able to answer for some of these participants?
Yes, I see some questions, and the very last one that I glanced over was asking about waiver of chemistry. And if you have taken a college chemistry course, we will waive it. The best way to evaluate your chemistry background is to go to the main page for the Winemaking Certificate Program and look at the sample questions that we have. That will tell you if you need a refresher or if you're okay with your chemistry background. Let's see.
The chemistry course that we offer is a little bit unique in the sense that it is more than you would normally get in a one-semester college chemistry course, because it tries to get you at least up to speed, get you acquainted with some of the concepts in general organic and biological chemistry. One of the disadvantages that we found with a lot of chemistry courses that our students have taken is that they don't take enough chemistry to get any, even acid-base chemistry, let alone any organic chemistry, which is, of course, at the heart of winemaking. So it's a very fast-paced course. It's designed for you to get a foundational understanding of some of the chemistry, not to master it, because it would be impossible to do in 13 weeks, but we'll give you exposure to the key concepts that you will need for the rest of the courses.
Thanks, Grady. Another thing I wanted to add for the OIV Wine Marketing Program, I don't remember if Christian mentioned this, that you can take the entire program, the 1 week program, or you can pick and choose the days that you wish to take. If you are not available to take the entire program, you can choose the days that are of interest to you.
Thanks for mentioning that, Katie, because that's an important point. Because some of you, for instance, you know, if you're already, imagine that you had been in working in a retail environment and you were kind of felt familiar with that, but you thought you might be going to work for a winery in marketing or for a wholesaler, you could take the Wednesday and Thursday days and not the Friday day, for example.
Yes, thank you. Another question that I came across was how many hours of homework or reading or class time one needs to budget for. I usually tell my students that they need to budget 10 to 12 hours for the Introduction to Winemaking course. For the remaining 4 courses, I suggest 12 to 15 hours a week. I don't know if Grady, you want to add something to it?
I would say that the intro course may be a little bit less than that. It's basically watching some videos, and there's not as much reading in that course. But in the remaining 4 courses, and certainly for the chemistry course, they take substantial investment of time. And I always tell students, you basically get out of them what you put into them. I mean, there's a lot of material that's presented. There's a lot of ancillary readings that can be read to augment the material that's presented in the video lessons. Can you pass the course with less time than that? Absolutely. Can you spend twice as much time if you happen to have it and the interest? You probably could, but that's just some guideline. It depends a lot on your preparation, how much you've had in your background, and also what your interest level is.
Thanks, Grady.
And on the wine marketing course, there isn't any, official homework, although there will be probably 1 to 2 45-minute recordings that you'll want to watch ahead of time. And if you want to participate in the marketing workshop, you'll want to spend 15 minutes to 45 minutes, whatever it takes you to sort of prep your marketing pitch.
Thanks, Christian. I have a
Enrico,
student.
just a second, Katie. Enrico, would you like to comment on the time commitment for the courses, at least from your experience?
Yes, I believe that it depends what you want to get out of it. As you said, Grady, you can probably do less if you want to pass, but I think most people taking the course are looking really to learn something. And I would say that you need to make a commitment to put the time in, or you won't be able to absorb the material. So I would skew to the side of saying that it takes a little more time probably than advertised if you want to do very well, but you can certainly pass by doing less.
Yeah, the nice thing is that most of our students do engage in the process, and so there's a lot of peer-to-peer sharing that happens as well. And so as I said, you get out of it what you put into it. So
agreed.
Thank you all. There is a student in the winemaking program taking these classes and wants some additional information on viticulture for winemakers, Grady. Can you talk about it a bit and say how this course is run?
The course is run just like the others in the sense that basically our video lessons and activities that take place throughout the course, much like the other courses. It is geared around learning the science around grape growing, primarily from the standpoint that as a small winery winemaker, you're usually in charge of the quality of the incoming grapes. And often that means, even if you don't have direct responsibility in the day-to-day vineyard operations, you need to understand what the vineyard manager is doing out there and why. And so basically that course looks over, site selection, soil, rootstocks, training systems, pest management, basically all of the aspects of grape growing in kind of an overview sense from the scientific standpoint to allow you to learn the terminology and the technology involved in growing grapes.
Thank you. I have a question from a student who wants to know if multiple people can access the material for OIV Wine Marketing Program. If you are taking the entire week, then you have access to the entire program. And if a company, we've had this happen before, for example, E&J Gallo will send several employees, and they will pay for 4 or 5 or 6 enrollments and send different people on different days. So that is possible. And there will be, however, there will be individual access to the program.
And I would add that in terms of sharing, most of the lectures have a locked PDF of the presentation that you can download, and then of course that's shareable. However, the recorded lectures are only available online streaming for a limited amount of time, typically 2 weeks after the course for the participants.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have. We'll be happy to answer any additional ones. And as you can see, Grady has shared the slide here with our contact information for myself, for Julie Brinley, for Christy Craig. Grady, would you like to add anything else?
I don't think so. I would just like to thank everybody for attending. Hopefully you got some information about the courses that we will be offering in the upcoming season. And we look forward to seeing you in a future class, and be sure to reach out with any questions that you might have through the contact thing. So I'd like to thank the panelists for coming today from various parts of the world, and also obviously for the staff here at UC. So thank you all for attending, and look forward to seeing you in a future class.
Thank you, Grady, and thanks
Take
again
care.
for joining us, and hopefully you enjoyed this information session. And like Grady said, we're hoping to see you in one of our classes, and have a great day. I guess, Christian, you were saying?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I was
okay.
just great session. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you.